I've got my eyes on the road and my hands upon the wheel. I've got my eyes on the road and my hands upon the wheel. I said I'm going to the road, I'm gonna have a real good time. Let it roll, baby, roll. Let it roll, baby, roll. Let it roll, baby, roll. Let it roll all night long.
My baby's all about the sunshine. She's the pride and joy. She's a sweet little baby. Hey, 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 hey. Oh, now, baby.
Oh, now, baby.
Instead of not shy.
Oh, now,
Ain't no cloud.
ain't no lie.
Na 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 na, tell me, baby, what's been wrong?
Thank you. Our next and final song is a kind of mashup of pop songs by the Backstreet Boys from the early 2000s. One, two, three, four.
Show me the meaning of being lonely. Is this the feeling I need to walk with? Tell me why I can't be there where you are. There's something missing in my
Something missing in my heart.
It's gonna be there.
Doom-ba-doom-doom.
Oh yeah,
Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
you might have been hurt, baby.
You've got no choice, babe. You got to move on, and you know there ain't no time to waste. Cause you're just too blind to see. In the end, you know it's gonna be me. You can't deny. Just tell me why every little thing I do never seems enough for you. You don't wanna lose it again, but I'm not like that. Baby, when you finally get to love somebody, guess what? It's gonna be me.
It's gonna be there.
Doom-ba-doom-doom.
Ooh yeah. enough for you. You don't wanna lose it again. But I'm not like that. Baby, when you finally get to love somebody, guess what?
It's gonna be me.
The best place to actually do that because you're in Murray,
This has been a great luncheon. We're a little behind because of parking and other things. I have just a few announcements I'd like to make. One is that we have an Emeriti lecture coming up on the 9th of April. Phil Cruz is going to entertain us with all kinds of media and pretty pictures and some molecules as well.
A bunch of molecules, Todd.
This is a free lecture and free parking. So, go for the parking. Let's see what else. On May 16th, we have an Emeriti luncheon. That's our business meeting as well. Officers are elected, and Carrie Harch is going to talk about morning larks and nightingales. How circadian rhythms affect our lives. That will be exciting. And the other thing that's happening at the end of April is the 4th issue of the newsletter. So you'll want to take a look at that when it comes out. And mark on your calendar July 24th. It's the 4th Wednesday of the month. And we're going to have a very special event where we go sailing together. There will be more details on that, and what's different this year is we've invited the Retiree Association to join us. So we will see our friends from the staff on this event as well. And of course, with Al Smith's permission, we will go to the yacht club afterwards and get together. So I also want to point out that Pavel Mahaka's obituary has now been added to our memorials. It's on the web. You find it by going to our website, looking under history, and click on memorials, and then go to the last name. This is a family-approved obituary. And you may find some others there that are interesting to read. And now I'd like to ask Barry if he would tell us about the Dixon Professorship.
Okay, so the Dixon Awards are funded by an endowment. It is particularly to support the research of Emeriti faculty. It's gotten more competitive. This year we had 11 proposals. We're only able to fund 3. I'm going to announce the winners right now, and for those who did not win, I can say that they were all excellent awards, and it was just a very tough competition. So one of the people who won the awards is not here, and that is Diane Gifford-Gonzalez in anthropology. So Diane has been investigating the sources of food used by Monterey Bay natives prior to Spanish colonization and the historical ecology of marine and terrestrial animals on which their livelihoods rested, and she's working on a project related to that. The second winner is here, and that is Lita Miller. Lita, in the Department of Music, and Dr. Miller is writing a book about the troubled history of racial discrimination in the American Federation of Musicians. In previous work, she focused on the union in San Francisco, the Musicians Union. She's planning to extend that research to other parts of the United States. And Linda, yes, they do give 2 to music, because the other winner is Linda Berman Hall. All right. It's been a very musical meeting here. And Linda plans to present a public concert of the music of Ireland's best-known computer Turlough O'Corlan, and she will prepare a 20-minute pre-concert talk, and the music will be performed by Linda and by 5 other accomplished Bay Area musicians. So congratulations to our new Dixon professor.
Thank you, Barry. And now the moment we've all been waiting for, to hear from the Chancellor. And I would like to take this time to thank the Chancellor. He's been a great supporter of the Emeriti through our Emeriti lectures, and helping to write, to send out letters, to encourage people to join, and we look forward to having you join us. Okay, so move it on.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Todd. It is a pleasure to be here again, and yes, this will be my last, my swan song as Chancellor at the Emeriti event, but I will be one of you, so going forward. So I thought I'd like to start with a thank you. I really want to thank all of you for your continued participation in what goes on at UC Santa Cruz. I think that's really important. I think it's really heartening to see how active our alumni, our Emeriti continue to be. I think it shows as well in the Dixon Awards that were just awarded. And I want to add my congratulations to the 3 Emeriti who won Dixon Awards. In many cases, our Emeriti stay active for decades. And I don't have to tell you, you already know that Santa Cruz alumni have done, did it again, Emeriti have done exceptionally well in terms of system-wide competitions as well for research awards. So you bring great institutional knowledge and great intellectual vigor to this campus. So I really want to thank all of the Emeriti around the room. And since we've last spoken, I just want to acknowledge that we've all been touched by a number of losses as well. Stuart Schlegel, Frank Telemontes, Helene Moblin, Pavel Mahatka, John Dzikas, just to name a few. And if I missed somebody over the past year, I apologize. But what strikes me is that I knew all of them, and those losses touched all of us, including me, to see them happening. What we have at UC Santa Cruz today is very much a cumulative result of all of the contributions of so many faculty over the years, including everyone in this room. And I think it's really important to remember that the importance of that. So I'm really grateful to be a part of this incredible continuum, and just as I'm sure all of you are as well. So today I thought it would be helpful for me to cover a number of topics and update you on some of the stuff going on campus and in the state. And if there's time, I'm happy to answer questions. Let me start with some faculty recognitions. This is something I always love to be able to do. Let me mention a few faculty who've won awards in recent months. And ocean scientist Jonathan Zare became a AAAS fellow. 3 of our faculty were named to the California Academy of Sciences. They include Claire Max, Natalie Battaglia, and Beth Shapiro. And Beth was also selected as a Howard Hughes Medical Institute investigator, which is a big honor. Ruby Rich was invited to join the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Again, that's a big deal. Astrophysicist Enrico Ramirez Ruiz was elected a fellow of the American Physical Society. Biomolecular engineer Angela Brooks was named a Pew Scholar. Francis Nimmo was awarded a Farinella Prize, which recognizes contributions in planetary sciences and related fields. And we had early career honors to several of our younger faculty, including Alexei Lethod, computer scientist Owen Arden, and 2 psychology professors, Adriana Monango and Rebecca Covarrubias. So I want to congratulate all of them and just say that's just an indication of how active and successful our faculty are. And they too are future Emeriti, so keep them in mind. So my notes say something about the state budget. God, what can I say? The university in the January governor's budget was treated better than we would normally have been treated in a Jerry Brown budget, but that is a very low bar. So I was pleased to see that the university was potentially allocated more money than would have been the case under the previous governor. On the other hand, there were some things that were not approved as part of the January budget, which disappointed me greatly. The most serious of which was that last year, a year ago, in lieu of a tuition increase, the state legislature voted to buy out a tuition increase at the university with $95 million in permanent funds. But the governor refused to go along with that and converted it into $95 million in one-time funds. And so the university hoped to have those one-time funds made permanent. That did not happen in the governor's budget. And so that has become the #1 priority for the university in terms of lobbying in Sacramento this year. I'm going to give you my opinion. My opinion is that I am not optimistic that will be added to the governor's budget based upon the things that I've heard, partly as a result of the fact that I understand that state revenues from taxes has been lower than expected. So I don't expect to see huge generosity on the part of our brethren in the state. I do want to remind you all of something, though. You know, when I was a student, or when I came to the university as a faculty member 47 years ago, we received like 90% of our core funding from the state of California. And tuition was just really very modest at best. Today, right now at UC Santa Cruz, we receive 60% of our core funding from student tuition and 40% from the state of California, roughly speaking. So we have gone from a state-supported university to a state-augmented university. And of course, my goal is to stop us from continuing to become a state-tolerated university. So I think we always need to stay cognizant of that bigger picture of what the evolution over time has been. Despite that gloom and doom, there remains huge interest in the campus. This year, we had record-setting applications. We had 56,000 students apply to be incoming frosh in the fall of 2019. That's 56,000. On top of that, more than 11,700 students applied to transfer for community colleges. These are strong numbers that are very similar to the past few years. And the transfer numbers are particularly gratifying. You may remember when I spoke to you last year that one of the big issues the campus was facing was a mandate from the state to admit 1 transfer student for every 2 frosh, that 2-to-1 ratio. At the time, UC Santa Cruz was at 2.7 to 1, and Santa Cruz and Riverside were the only 2 campuses that had not achieved 2-to-1, and there was tremendous pressure from the state to do that. So I spent a fair amount of time in Sacramento talking to members of the governor's team, shall we say, and the upshot of which was I submitted a plan which was accepted by them of what we would do over the next 3 years to move from 2.7 to 1 to 2 to 1. And it was a very specific plan. It required some significant investment by the campus, but they accepted that plan, and I thought it would take us 3 years to achieve that goal. Instead, we achieved it in 1 year. So last fall, we actually achieved 2 to 1. We did it in 1 year, even though I thought it would take us 3. So I think that, and the strong numbers for transfer students continue. So I think that's a really good thing. I think it's also worth noting that we continue to get increases in applications from students from abroad. Freshman applications from international students are up by about 12.5% from last year. 10 years ago, we had 540 international students apply for admission to UC Santa Cruz. Last year, this year I should say, we had 7,027 students apply to UCSC from abroad. So we have definitely made some significant changes. This helps to create a global campus. It helps provide funding for the campus because non-resident tuition is a major source of income these days for the campus, I am sad to say. Sad and happy to say. I want the money, but I'm sad that we have to do that. And I would say that for students from other parts of the country, I'm also very heartened. I just got back from a week-long trip where I did I do this every year. I do receptions in California for admitted students, in Northern California and Southern California, and then I usually spend a week on the East Coast taking a tour of the East Coast where I have a whole series of receptions for admitted students. And I was really struck this year by the number of students who appeared at those receptions. I've had years where if I was in Washington, D.C., I think the first year I did it, we maybe had 6 potential students show up at a reception. And this year it was like 60. And so, and I'm seeing this in every site along the East Coast. So there's a really renewed interest in, well, renewed may be the wrong word. There's a huge upsurge of interest in UC Santa Cruz, in other parts of the country as well, and I'm very heartened by that. I think that says something about the work that our folks are doing. And so I think that is a big plus. Let me say a word about the Strategic Academic Plan, which is an effort that's been spearheaded by our Executive Vice Chancellor and Provost, Marlene Trump. She's developed a plan that has tried to build on what makes us unique as a campus and will improve our ability to recruit faculty and student staff and to, as well as attract investment. The academic priority areas pinpointed in the strategic plan, there's 3 of them: Earth futures, justice in a changing world, and digital interventions. And all of that is about cross-divisional participation by faculty in those initiatives. There's a place for a large number of faculty from many different parts of the campus in each of those 3 initiatives, and I have seen great enthusiasm. Just a week or 2 ago, Sandy Faber gave a talk on Earth's futures at our Silicon Valley campus, and it was just remarkably well received by a group of potential donors. So final revisions in the plan will be available for review this month, and then with the input incorporated, the final plan will be published in June. So let me turn now to some projects that are ongoing. Obviously, one of them is Student Housing West. We have received final approval from the Board of Regents to proceed with Student Housing West. Let me remind you that that project involves 2 sites, one along Heller Drive, the other along Hagar Drive, to provide housing for 3,000 students on campus. The project as a whole will include 3,000 beds. It will put upper division students who are now living in the community of Santa Cruz back onto the campus. The project is intended to serve our current student body, not potential growth of students. It will relieve pressure on the local housing market. It will relieve overcrowding in existing dorms. Let me remind you that over the last few years, we have basically eliminated lounges within all of our dormitories on campus and converted them into bedrooms. And I think for not just the overcrowding of students, but for the academic integrity of our campus, those spaces are important in terms of academic success, and it's really important that we return those spaces to be lounges, and that's something we will do. We will also be, as a part of this project, building a child care center on campus, which will enable us to once again offer faculty and staff child care services on campus. That's something that I think is really crucial for our future. Now, I think that the approval of this project is a very positive development for the campus and for our faculty and students. I recognize that there are opponents, and I know there are, not sure, I know that there are many in this room, and I really do want to recognize that I think it is a legitimate concern to be concerned about the fact that one of our sites for this project is in the East Meadow, and that it is something that will detract from the appearance of the campus. I definitely recognize that, and I regard that as a negative in terms of the project. On the other hand, I kind of feel it's important for us as a campus to weigh competing interests. And on the one hand, preserving what already exists on campus, but on the other hand, providing affordable housing for students. And those are the kinds of trade-offs that one has to consider when we consider these projects. But I want to acknowledge the legitimacy of the concern of those who are not in support of this project. But having said that, I am in support of this project. I think it is important that we proceed. I think California is in the grips of a housing crisis, and Santa Cruz in particular is in the grips of one of the worst housing crises in the history of our town. I think too many students are struggling to get by in the housing market that appears. We as a campus only currently provide housing for about half of our undergraduate students. Let me remind you that right now, UC Santa Cruz houses a higher percentage of our students on campus than all but one public university in the state of California. All but one public university, and that one public university is the California Maritime Academy. But because of the housing crisis in our community, it's really important that we find a way to provide more housing. Another project on campus that will be starting soon and has now received regental approval is the revamp of Kresge College. The Kresge College renewal is going to be crucial for our future. It was approved by the Regents last month. That allows us to go forward with updating the college. This is desperately needed. Kresge College is now 50 years old, and to be blunt with you, unlike all of us in this room, it's showing its age. And Kresge College has issues with ADA compliance. It has seismic issues. It really does need to be redone. Our plan is to preserve and upgrade some of the beloved landmarks of Kresge College and integrate them into new facilities, including residence halls, classrooms, lecture halls, and programmatic buildings. The project will allow us to better meet the needs of today's student body while safeguarding really some of the key elements of Kresge College's historic background. And I think you all know that Kresge College was designed by award-winning architect Charles Moore, world-famous architect Charles Moore. And we're trying to preserve the essence of what he created when we first built Kresge College, even though we know we need to replace many of the buildings that are there. The new construction will add about 200 new student beds. It will grow the footprint of Kresge from 133,000 square feet to 200,000 square feet. And the trick now is going to be to figure out what our timing and construction schedule is, because that means that we're going to have two very large projects going on campus, Student Housing West and Kresge College. And probably the way it's going to have to work is Student Housing West first, for a whole bunch of reasons, which I can go into if you want, but that's the way of the world. A third project that I brought to the Regents at their meeting didn't quite have the reception that I might have hoped for, and that was a proposal to rebuild University House. As you may recall, University House was built in 1967, and Hal Hyde, who's here, probably can say a few words about it. Wait a minute, where's Hal? Oh, hi Hal.
Hi.
I think Hal can probably say a few words about it as well. But when University House was actively in use, we were having more than 60 events a year, and we had more than 1,500 guests a year visiting University House for public events. In 2015, it was deemed uninhabitable because of seismic issues. I will tell you that historically, I have kept my fingers off all issues related to University House because it's an obvious conflict of interest for the Chancellor to have anything to do with the Chancellor's house. But when I saw that report, I thought it was so crazy. I insisted that they do get another assessment, and interestingly enough, the other assessment came back with the same results. So I hope to get the Regents to approve a new University House with a small attached events center. And to make this, from my perspective, what made this particularly sweet as a potential idea is that I had conversations with President Janet Napolitano, who agreed to supply half of the funds to build this University House and Event Center. Typically, campuses do not get any money from the Office of the President to build their university houses. And part of the reason that I was able to convince her to do this was because she now happens to be doing a recruitment and wants as many arrows in her quiver as possible. So she agreed to do that. And we brought it to the Regents, and I brought it to the Regents. I might just add, I obviously don't have a conflict of interest anymore, so I could bring this to the Regents myself. And the Regents had concerns about the cost of the project, and I'm not sure that I disagree with them. And in any event, the optics are not the best for a large project for a chancellor's residence right now because of all of the other issues that we face. I think we will be bringing a revamped project back to the Regents. I'm not sure exactly when that will happen. I suspect that it'll happen after I'm gone, but we need to think this through and do it carefully. I really want to take advantage of this moment in time when we do have matching funds from the President to do this as effectively as possible. In the meantime, the plan is to bring to the Regents approval to rent a residence for the new Chancellor somewhere in the Santa Cruz community. And I think that will be on the main Regents' agenda. So if we don't have enough large projects that we're doing, let me give you an update as